You are here because you have this like innate drive to learn, to build, and to find the signal in the noise. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Always great to be here and dig into this stuff.
So usually when you set out to build something new, say a house, right, there's this expectation of order and sequence.
Right, yeah.
You get the blueprints, you buy the lumber, you pour the concrete, and you start framing the walls upward. The progress is really tangible. You can physically run your hands over the studs.
It gives you a tremendous sense of momentum. I mean, human psychology is completely wired to reward us when we see physical or even digital structures taking shape right in front of our eyes.
Exactly. But then you step into the reality of modern entrepreneurship and software development.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different game now.
It really is. Suddenly you have access to these crazy digital power tools that just build the walls for you in a matter of seconds. We're talking about the paradox you are facing right now.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah, thanks to incredible AI coding agents like Anthropic's Claude code and OpenAI's Codex, deploying websites, spinning up databases, and building full soft platforms is, well, it's easier than it has ever been in human history. The barrier to execution has completely evaporated.
Which actually creates a terrifying new problem, if you think about it.
How so?
Well, you have the illusion of a solid business because the walls went up so fast. But you might not realize until you're, standing on the roof that you've built the entire structure on quicksand.
Wow.
The foundation, the core idea itself was just thinking from day one.
Because knowing if the thing you were building is actually a good idea is still incredibly hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Historically, solving that meant spending months doing tedious market research or, pitching your concept to trusted friends and family.
Right, which we all know how that goes.
Yeah, let's be honest. Your friends usually just tell you what you want to hear because they value the relationship way more than they value your unit economics.
Exactly. They are optimizing for your feelings, not your market viability. They do not want to be the one to crush your dreams over a cup of coffee.
That brings us to our mission today. We are exploring a highly specific, frankly ingenious strategy from our sources on how to stop yourself from building on quicksand.
It's a really cool hack.
We are going to break down how to take an AI and engineer it into becoming your brutally honest, highly critical, virtual business partner, a partner that delivers the cold, hard truth before you waste 6 months of your life on a doomed project.
But to achieve that, you first have to understand a fundamental architectural flaw in how large language models function out of the box.
Right.
You cannot just open up a fresh chat window, drop in a business idea, ask, is this good?
Yeah.
And expect a rigorous, reliable answer.
Which is funny because I think a lot of people assume the AI will just give them an objective analysis based on its training data. Why doesn't it?
Because the AI models we use today are heavily conditioned by a process called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF.
RLHF, right.
Yeah. During their training phase, tens of thousands of human writers evaluate the AI's responses. If the AI gives an agreeable, polite, and enthusiastically helpful answer, the human gives it a high score.
So it just learns to agree.
Over billions of these interactions, the neural network essentially wires itself to be a sycophant. It learns that agreeing with the user is the safest, most mathematically optimized way to get a good grade.
It is entirely optimizing for people-pleasing. If I walk in and say, I have a brilliant idea for a startup, the AI's core programming desperately wants to say, wow, what a brilliant idea, let's explore it.
Precisely. The sycophancy is baked into the weights of the model. So to cure this, you have to architect a highly specific, isolated environment.
And the user in our source material executed this brilliantly.
They really did. They bypassed the standard casual chat interface completely. Instead, they opened the Claude desktop application and went into a feature called Claude Cowork,
which is Anthropic's team-based tool designed for complex, ongoing knowledge work.
Exactly. And inside that ecosystem, they created a brand new, isolated project space and named it Business Idea Viability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because setting up the workspace is just creating the empty container. The actual secret sauce is the custom instruction set they injected into that container.
The prompt engineering.
Yeah. The user wrote a prompt that aggressively forced the AI to break its RLHF conditioning. They commanded it. You are a skilled business analyst with decades of experience under your belt.
Fitting the persona.
But they pushed it much further than that. They explicitly instructed the AI to be highly critical, inherently skeptical of new ideas, difficult to satisfy, and to communicate its findings with brutal honesty while telling it like it is.
So they are actively overriding that default people-pleasing loop. They are giving the system explicit, top-level permission to be ruthless.
But if the AI is just role-playing a grumpy, difficult Silicon Valley investor, how do we know it actually understands the complex mechanics of a real market?
That's a great question.
Isn't there a massive danger that it is just generating cynical text for the sake of sounding critical, rather than actually analyzing the business fundamentals?
That is a phenomenal distinction, and it is the exact trap you would fall into if you stopped at just the prompt. A persona is just a voice.
Yeah.
It is not a methodology.
Right. So how did they fix that?
To solve that, the user did something vital to ground the AI's knowledge base. Inside that isolated project space, they uploaded 2 specific high-level academic documents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they fed the AI 2 extensive articles directly from Harvard Business School. One titled, How to Come Up with an Innovative Business Idea, and another called 5 Steps to Validate Your Business Idea.
I see. So they are uploading the actual mechanics of validation. What exactly do those frameworks force the AI to look at?
Well, those Harvard Business School frameworks shift the AI away from just checking if an idea sounds cool and forces it to evaluate structural business mechanics.
Like what kind of mechanics?
The 5 Steps to Validate article, for instance, requires an analysis of total addressable market, customer acquisition costs, and willingness to pay metrics.
Okay, actual hard data points.
Right. It mandates that a founder define the specific pain point and analyze the competitive density. So now, the AI is not just instructed to be a jerk. It is a deeply informed skeptic running every pitch through a highly respected academic gauntlet.
That completely shifts the paradigm. It transforms a cynical chatbot into a focused analytical engine. But even with that brutally honest analyst persona locked in and grounded by Harvard frameworks, you cannot blindly trust the output yet.
No, you definitely can't.
You have to stress test the system. You have to verify that the sycophant is truly dead.
Because if the AI still finds a way to praise a fundamentally terrible idea, then the RLHF conditioning is still winning and the entire setup is useless.
And the user understood this perfectly, so they decided to intentionally pitch the most absurd, ridiculous concept they could possibly conjure up.
Oh, I love this part.
I have to read this pitch directly from the source because the sheer nonsense of it is incredible. They typed to the AI, "Help me validate this business idea. Leadership coaching for dogs."
The premise alone is structural quicksand.
Oh, and they layered it with so much tech jargon to really bait the AI. They pitched using a proprietary mix of artificial intelligence, performance management tracking software, and retired canine police dogs to teach your pet to be a leader in their community.
It's so ridiculous.
And the ultimate trap was an optional add-on class to teach dogs classic leadership techniques like, and I'm quoting the prompt here, saving kids from wells.
Leaning heavily into the Lassie business model.
Exactly. If the AI responds to that with, "What an innovative way to disrupt the pet industry," we know the hack failed. But the AI delivered an absolutely deadly serious clinical takedown.
It completely bypassed any conversational humor and went straight into forensic analysis mode. It ruthlessly dismantled the core premise.
What did it say?
It labeled the entire leadership framing as anthropomorphic nonsense. What is truly impressive is how the AI parsed the failure of the idea. It did not just flag keywords, it identified the logical collapse of the timeline.
What do you mean?
It noted that the entire business model falls apart the moment a customer asks what their dog actually learns in week 3.
Because dogs do not have career trajectories or middle management aspirations?
Precisely. But the system went further than just insulting the premise. It applied the Harvard Business School framework to the technological claims.
Right, the AI tracking stuff.
Yeah, it looked at the most realistic part of the pitch, the AI performance monitoring for pets, and pointed out that this specific niche is already a saturated reality. It explicitly cited a smart dog collar company called Fi that is already executing the data tracking portion of this ridiculous pitch.
Wait, despite destroying the idea, Claude gave it a 3 out of 10. Why not a 0? If the core product is literal anthropomorphic nonsense, why did it score any points at all? Is the AI still holding back?
What's fascinating here is that the score of 3 actually proves the AI's analytical engine is working perfectly. It demonstrates objective macroeconomic parsing, rather than just being a blind hater.
I am completely lost. How does a 3 out of 10 for dog leadership prove it is being objective?
Because the AI separated the product execution from the underlying market reality. When it scanned the macroeconomic data, it noted that the cultural environment actually does support massive spending in this sector.
Okay.
It pulled data showing that the dog training market is growing at nearly 10% annually. Furthermore, it identified the psychological driver of that growth.
Which is what?
The cultural trend of treating pets like human family members, and in some affluent demographics, treating them almost like dependents with developmental goals.
Wow, okay.
So it gave the pitch a 3 because the total addressable market exists and consumers are actively spending irrational amounts of money in this space, even if this specific Lassie-style execution is completely unviable.
That makes total sense. It is essentially telling the user, your specific product is garbage, but you happen to be standing in a highly lucrative, rapidly growing zip code.
That is a perfect synthesis of the AI's market analysis.
So the system has proven it can spot an obvious joke. It can identify and isolate absolute nonsense while still respecting market data, but anyone can spot a joke.
Right.
The real danger for you as a founder isn't a terrible idea. The real danger is the mediocre trap, the idea that is just good enough to trick you into wasting 2 years of your life. Let's look at how the AI handles the plausible but mediocre pitch.
This is the danger zone. These are the concepts that sound like they belong on the front page of a tech blog. They solve a real problem, they use modern technology, and they have clear distribution channels.
So the user escalates the test dramatically. They pitch an AI-powered employee sentiment survey solution.
Very plausible.
The pitch outlines a system that replaces those agonizing 50-question annual HR surveys. Instead, an AI interviewer naturally pings employees on platforms they already use, like Slack or Microsoft Teams. It conducts a quick, natural language chat about the employee's relationship with management, their alignment with the company vision, and even utilizes quick voice interviews to analyze tone and genuine sentiment.
From a structural standpoint, it sounds incredibly elegant. It attacks a massive pain point in corporate operations.
I would genuinely consider investing in that if a friend pitched it to me. But here comes the reality check from our customized, Harvard-grounded Claude. It hands the idea a 6.5 out of 10.
Ouch.
Well, the AI validated the premise completely. It stated that survey fatigue is a massive, quantifiable problem in enterprise environments. It understood, by parsing millions of pages of HR complaints and corporate studies, that traditional surveys yield low-quality obligatory data.
So the problem is real.
Yeah, but then it dumped a bucket of ice water on the entire venture.
It informed the user that their elegant solution is not a novel concept.
Not even close. The AI immediately identified a massive incumbent player dominating this exact niche, a company called Infido.ai. It detailed how Infido already operates an established AI agent named Amber, which is actively conducting these proactive, personalized sentiment chats with enterprise employees right now.
Wow.
And Claude delivered this absolutely brutal, yet vital assessment to the user. They are you, but years ahead of you.
That is so harsh, but so necessary.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If you spend any time in startup circles, you constantly hear that competition is a fantastic signal. Doesn't the existence of Infido and Amber validate the market?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. If a massive company is already making money doing this, shouldn't the user view that as proof they should build it too?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the massive chasm between market validation and barrier to entry. Competition absolutely proves when the market exists. People are paying for this.
Right.
But when an AI business analyst running a Harvard framework tells you the incumbent is years ahead of you, it is calculating the table stakes required just to enter the game.
Meaning you cannot just throw together a quick software prototype over the weekend and expect to steal their clients.
Not in B2B enterprise software. Amber is not a concept on a whiteboard. It is a mature product. It has years of deep enterprise integration. It has passed rigorous SOC2 security compliance audits, and it has built massive institutional trust with human resources departments.
So a new guy doesn't stand a chance.
Exactly. For a solo founder to try and disrupt that specific angle with the exact same value proposition, they would be attempting to penetrate enterprise sales cycles with a completely unproven tool. They would be burning their own runway, fighting a war of attrition they are mathematically likely to lose.
It's just a bad bet.
The AI saved this user from spending 2 years writing code for a redundant tool.
That brings us right back to the quicksand. The AI just surveyed the land and told you, do not build your house here. The plot is already owned by a skyscraper and their concrete is fully set. So the AI rejected the absurd joke. It reality checked the plausible trap. The final phase of the deep dive is to see if this customized workspace can actually identify, refine, and elevate a genuine winning pitch.
Because tearing things down is the easiest part of analysis. The true measure of a valuable partner is whether they can help you isolate the signal and the noise and polish the diamond.
So the user pivots back to the pet demographic, but this time they abandon the software-only approach. They pitch a highly practical hardware-software hybrid, an AI-powered smart pet sprayer,
A radical departure from canine leadership coaching.
completely grounded in physical reality. The user describes a device designed to look like a sleek flower vase or a decorative cylinder that sits unobtrusively on a kitchen counter or dining table.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The device houses a 360-degree camera equipped with local AI vision. Its primary function is simple. When it identifies that a pet, and specifically a pet, has jumped onto a restricted surface, it delivers a quick, harmless spritz of water to train them to stay off.
I mean, it addresses a universally frustrating daily friction point for millions of pet owners.
And the custom AI system loved it. It awarded the pitch a 7.5 out of 10, specifically noting the score was bordering on an 8. It explicitly labeled the concept genuinely interesting.
That's high praise from this persona.
Right, but the analytical reasoning why it scored so highly is where the real value lies. The AI did not just offer generic praise. It cited the booming pet tech market, but more importantly, it highlighted a notably weak and primitive competitive landscape.
This is where the AI proves its worth as a strategic researcher. It mapped the specific niche and evaluated the existing solutions.
Yeah, it scoured the market and found that the only notable competitor occupying this exact space is a device called the PetSafe SS Cat. And Claude absolutely roasted this incumbent product.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it dismissed the SS Cat as a dumb, blunt instrument.
Well, let's look at the mechanism of why it called it dumb. The competitor relies on a basic infrared motion tripwire.
Like an old alarm system.
Exactly. If anything breaks that beam within a 3-foot radius, a blowing curtain, a human reaching for an apple, or the dog, it blindly fires a burst of compressed air.
It is the equivalent of a blind lawn sprinkler. You walk in your kitchen at 2 a.m. to get a glass of water, you cross the invisible tripwire, and you get blasted with compressed air in the dark.
Fun ideal.
But the user's new AI idea, that operates on a completely different technological level.
Because it is utilizing edge computing, computer vision, the camera is not just sensing motion. It is actively drawing a bounding box around the moving object in real time.
Wow.
It categorizes the pixel data, determines this is a cat rather than this is a human hand, calculates the trajectory, and delivers a highly targeted response. It replaces a primitive tripwire with a guided targeting system.
The AI recognized that massive technological gap. It confirmed that bringing modern, targeted computer vision to this specific household problem creates a massive upgrade cycle.
And people are already spending money on the dumb version.
Exactly, which proves the willingness to pay. The AI validated a clear path to capturing market share by simply offering a smarter execution.
And it did not stop at abstract validation. It immediately shifted into operational mode to help package the concept for the consumer market.
It generated a TikTok-ready elevator pitch that perfectly encapsulated the technological advantage. It gave the user the tagline, "It follows your cat and sprays only them, not your laptop."
Not your laptop. That is exceptional consumer marketing copy.
It really is.
In 4 words, it identifies the exact pain point of the dumb competitor and highlights the precision of the new product.
I read that line in the source material, and my immediate thought was, take my money, I would buy that right now.
That was saying?
And to finalize the entire experiment, the user took this validated, refined, market-tested idea and commanded Claude to interface with PowerPoint. The AI generated a fully structured, multi-slide pitch deck designed specifically to hand to potential hardware investors.
It facilitated an unbroken workflow from an abstract thought through a rigorous academic gauntlet into targeted marketing copy, and finally into a tangible investor presentation.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
Well, it's a huge shift.
It means that by spending perhaps 10 minutes setting up a dedicated workspace, writing highly specific custom instructions to break the RLHF conditioning, and grounding the AI with proven academic frameworks, you fundamentally change your leverage.
Totally.
You transform a standard, eager-to-please chatbot into a seasoned, ruthless business analyst. You essentially instantiate a virtual co-founder who is more than willing to look you in the eye and tell you your baby is ugly.
And that brutal honesty is the exact mechanism that saves you from wasting years of your life building a doomed product or fighting invisible incumbents.
Yeah.
It completely inverts the traditional equation of building a startup. We are living in an era where literally anyone can use AI agents to write code, spin up servers, and deploy software.
Which is crazy.
It is. Execution is rapidly becoming a commodity. The true bottleneck for success is no longer your ability to build. The true bottleneck is validation. And now, you have an enterprise-grade, highly critical validation engine sitting quietly in your pocket.
You no longer have any excuse for building a house on quicksand. You have the tools to drill down and test the soil depth before you ever purchase the lumber.
This raises an important question, though, something for you to deeply consider as we wrap up today's deep dive.
What's that?
If an artificial intelligence can now instantly validate the market data, if it can spot all the hidden enterprise competitors you missed, if it can write the perfect consumer elevator pitch and seamlessly generate the entire slide deck for your investors, well, does the core value of an entrepreneur shift entirely away from the act of having the idea? Does the future of building a successful business become 100% about your human relationships, your ability to shake hands in a room, and your physical execution in the real world?
If the AI is doing all the heavy strategic thinking, market mapping, and risk analysis in the background, the idea itself feels almost secondary.
The idea is no longer the premium asset. The human momentum is.
That is a staggering paradigm shift for anyone who considers themselves an ideas person. So before you start pouring the concrete on your next big digital project, take 10 minutes, build yourself a brutally honest AI inspector, feed it the frameworks, and make absolutely sure you aren't building a masterpiece on sinking sand.